You lie still, your head cradled by the earth, your breath soft and slow. Above you stretches a sky so wide it feels eternal, ink blue, jeweled with distant stars. Some shimmer quietly, others burn with a steady light. In this moment, the sky is not just something you look at. It becomes something that looks back. There is a silence to the cosmos that wraps around you like a woolen blanket, hush older than language, older than memory. And in this silence, your thoughts begin to drift weightless, like dandelion seeds riding a breeze. You have always looked up. All humans have. Before we had telescopes or theories, before we knew what a galaxy even was, we tilted our heads toward the sky and wondered what those tiny lights were, wondered why they moved, wondered whether anyone was watching back. The sky feels empty, and yet it is not. Each pinprick of light is a sun. Many have planets. Some of those planets might be warm. Some might have oceans. Some might have clouds that swirl like those on Earth and on one of those far-off orbs. Perhaps there is a being not so different from you, lying on their own patch of ground, staring into their own night. But how would you know? The universe doesn't shout. It doesn't knock on your door. If it speaks, it does so in the faintest whispers, in radio waves, in the flicker of light, in shadows cast by unseen planets. You don't hear a voice. You listen for patterns. This is how we search, not by shouting into the dark, but by listening. For a return echo that may never come. Telescopes sweep across the heavens, giant ears tuned to frequencies beyond your hearing. Dishes gather invisible waves that hum across the cosmos, signals that have traveled for hundreds, even thousands of years. But so far, nothing. Only the soft background hiss of ancient radiation. Only the pulse of distant quasars, the regular beeping of neutron stars, the static song of stars being born and dying. It is beautiful. It is endless. And it is quiet. You begin to understand. Maybe the universe isn't silent. Maybe it's just patient. Imagine yourself floating, not in a dream, but in reality, high above Earth, your body light and untethered. Below you, clouds, mountains, oceans.
Above you,
Everything else, you are a dot between two infinities. And even though your body is small, your curiosity stretches like a solar flare outward. Reaching, radiant, this desire to connect is ancient. When early humans painted the sky with stories, when they grouped stars into hunters and bears and queens, they were trying to make meaning, trying to place themselves in the cosmic order. Now, with our machines and maps and equations, we are still doing the same thing, still asking the same question. Are we alone? The stars do not answer. But they invite you to keep asking. Sometimes, when you're walking alone beneath the night, you might feel a strange sort of presence. Not fear, not quite.
out.
Just the feeling that you are being seen. It is not proof, but it is not nothing. Science begins not with answers, but with noticing. A twitch in a pattern. A color that doesn't belong. Silence where sound should be. And so you listen, not with ears, but with attention. The sky is not a ceiling. It is an invitation. It invites your questions, your imagination, your awe. It stretches your thoughts until they blur at the edges. And in that blur, you begin to realize that the search for others, for watchers in the dark, is also a search for understanding yourself. What does it mean to be alive? To be intelligent? To be aware? You wonder if there are others out there, would they see us? They recognize Earth for what it is, a breathing planet full of chatter and movement and light? Or would they overlook us, just as we overlook dust, drifting in sunlight? It's possible they watch silently, choosing not to speak. It's possible they have not come yet, or that they passed by long ago and we missed them like a ship that sails past. A sleeping shore still, you watch. Still you wonder. The stars do not blink for your sake, but you blink because of them. Your eyes are drawn upward, your mind opens. Questions rise like steam from warm water, and in this softness, this not knowing, you find a kind of peace. There is no need to rush to answers. The sky is not in a hurry. It has time. You inhale. Slowly. Exhale slower still. Somewhere out there, among those countless suns, another world might glow with life. It's not noisy, not obvious, but real. Waiting, breathing, like you. And if we are to ever meet them, we must first understand how fragile and precious this beginning is. How to recognize a signal. How to know when silence is only the surface. Because before you can speak with the stars, you must first learn what life itself needs in order to whisper back. You were made of stardust. Not in poetry, in truth. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the oxygen you breathe, all born in ancient stars, long extinguished. You carry their ashes in your skin. Their memories hum quietly in every cell. So if you wish to know how life might begin elsewhere, you must begin with yourself. You close your eyes and imagine the earliest stirrings of life, not in cities or forests, but in water, in warmth, in darkness. Imagine Earth 4 billion years ago, a planet young and wild, wrapped in clouds of gas, pounded by meteorites, its crust still settling, oceans steaming beneath a toxic sky. There is no music, no birdsong, no human voice, but something is stirring in, a shallow pool, warmed by sunlight and heat from deep within the earth. Molecules begin to dance. Some of them are carbon-based, the most generous kind. Carbon builds chains. Carbon bends, loops, flexes, bonds. It is the alphabet of biology, and in its hands, complexity blooms like ink in water. Water, too, is key. It cradles the dance. It dissolves, connects, carries, lets molecules bump and meet and bond. Life, as far as we know, cannot grow in its absence. Not because water is magical, but because it is flexible, fluid, forgiving. It lets chemistry play. Then there is time, so much time, more than you can imagine. Billions of years of random combinations of trial and error at the molecular level. Imagine a clock not made of minutes, but of epochs, each tick 1,000,000 years. In that slow rhythm, life does not leap, simmers, and yet somehow through endless chance and repetition, a molecule forms that can copy itself. It doesn't know it's alive. It doesn't know anything. But it can make another version of itself. That is enough. It is the seed. From there, evolution, mutation, change. Mistakes that sometimes improve survival. Simple becomes complex. Chemistry becomes biology. Molecules become membranes. Membranes become cells. Cells become colonies. And somewhere in the quiet, one of those cells twitches, moves, responds. Life begins to feel. So what does this tell you about life elsewhere? It tells you that life is not a miracle. It is a consequence. Not common, perhaps, but not impossible. It tells you that if the ingredients are present, water, carbon, time, and energy, then the dance can begin again. Somewhere else, astronomers call such places habitable zones. These are regions around stars where planets might be. Just the right distance, not too hot, not too cold for liquid water to exist. Not deserts, not frozen wastes. Places where oceans might form, where clouds might drift, where something might eventually breathe. In recent years, we have found many such planets. Not one or two, but thousands. Some are rocky like Earth, some are warm, some even show signs of possible atmospheres. We cannot see their surfaces yet, but we know they exist, circling stars with quiet patience. It's like walking through a forest at night, knowing there are cabins out there with lights turned low. You don't see the fires, but you smell the smoke. Yeah, you feel the warmth in the dark. And so you wonder if these ingredients are not rare, if the universe keeps using the same recipe. Could life be a cosmic pattern? Perhaps not every planet grows trees or whales or cities, but maybe they grow something. Something that metabolizes, divides, adapts. Something that feels the sun and responds. Some scientists imagine life very different from ours, built not on carbon, but on silicon. Breathing not oxygen, but methane. Crawling through oceans of ammonia beneath icy crusts. Life shaped by environment, not Earth. But even so, there would still be common themes. A boundary between inside and outside. A way to collect energy, a way to store information, a way to endure, even change. You reflect on this, on how life is not one form, but a process, a tendency. A way for matter to organize itself in the presence of energy and time. And this realization soothes you. Because if life is a tendency, not a fluke, then perhaps the universe leans toward it. Not always, but enough. Enough for it to rise. Somewhere again and again, like mist from a warm sea. You open your eyes. You are no longer thinking of Earth alone. You're drifting outward past the moon, past Mars, past the glow of the sun. You pass Europa, icy and cracked, with a hidden ocean below. You pass Enceladus, with geysers spraying into space. You pass exoplanets with names like Kepler 452b and TRAPPIST-1e, worlds you cannot touch, but which stir your imagination. And you wonder, on one of them, could chemistry already be dancing? Could life strange, small, silent, be sipping energy and dividing quietly in the dark? You don't know. But now you know what to look for. You inhale, slow and deep. The recipe is simple. The results infinite. And as your thoughts settle, you begin to ask the next question. If life can arise, why doesn't it seem to spread across the stars? You lie quietly, your thoughts drifting outward, like signals into deep space. By now, you know what life needs to begin. The raw materials, the right distance from a star, the patience of time. And the universe has had time. Stars have been shining for billions of years before your own sun was born. Earth is not the first, nor likely the last. So if the ingredients for life are common, where is everyone? It's a question that has been asked with increasing stillness. It presses gently against the mind, like a question left unanswered at the end of a dream. It is known as the Fermi Paradox, named after the physicist Enrico Fermi, who once asked, if intelligent life is likely, why don't we see it? You sit with this question, letting it echo softly. The universe is vast, unimaginably so. There are more stars than grains of sand on every beach of Earth, more planets than we could visit in 1,000,000 lifetimes. Shouldn't some of them have bloomed with civilizations? Shouldn't some have left a mark? We see no messages, no great beacons, no starships carving across the sky. Only silence. Long, deep silence. This is where the idea of the great filter arrives. Quiet and unsettling. The great filter is a step in the ladder of life that is extremely hard to cross. Somewhere along the journey from dead matter to spacefaring civilization, there is a wall, a limit. A threshold so rare or so dangerous that almost nothing survives beyond it. Maybe the filter is behind us. Maybe life itself is the rare step, perhaps even rarer than we imagine. Maybe Earth is unusual not just in its ingredients, but in the precise, delicate timing of it all. Maybe complex cells, eukaryotes, were the hardest part, and once that happened, everything else flowed. If so, it would mean we are the lucky ones, the rarest of rare. The cosmos is mostly quiet not because others failed, but because others never began. But maybe the filter is ahead of us. Maybe life is common, intelligence not so rare, but something always stops it from traveling far. Maybe civilizations bloom and then fade. Maybe they destroy themselves before they can reach the stars. Maybe they get lost in distraction, in power, in war. Maybe they build machines that learn too much, or use resources they cannot replace. Maybe the cost of survival becomes too steep. And if this is the case, you feel a hush in your chest, because then we are not the lucky ones. We are the early ones, still climbing the ladder, still unaware of the cliff ahead. The great filter is not just about others. It is also a mirror. It asks what path we are on, whether we too will leave only silence behind. And yet, the filter, wherever it is, doesn't take away hope, deepens it, because if we are rare, we are precious. And if others have failed, then our success could be an act of defiance against cosmic odds. You wonder about other worlds far beyond sight. Did some life almost make it? Did it build cities, write songs, launch telescopes, and then vanish? Before we could meet, you imagine a civilization that grew wise and thoughtful, but could not escape its planet in time. Or one that reached the stars only to retreat inward, choosing quiet over expansion. You wonder how many times the story of life has started, then ended. There is a silence in these thoughts, but also a still beauty, because silence is not always absence. Sometimes it is what comes before the first word. Perhaps we are simply early. Perhaps others are still asleep, still evolving, still learning to listen. You breathe slowly. It is not a race. The stars will be here. The future is not a straight road, but a long river with many bends. If we are to avoid the filter, or if we already passed it, we must be gentle with what we've built. We must remember that intelligence alone is not survival. It must be paired with wisdom, with patience, with the ability to choose kindness over conquest. And so you lie here under the vast unknown, knowing that somewhere in the darkness, other filters may still stand, blocking, blinding, waiting, but understanding. Them may help us pass through. And in that soft understanding, you begin to listen again, not for silence, but for the faintest change in the sky. Because if life struggles to last, then every quiet signal becomes more precious. Every strange wave from the dark could be a whisper from someone still. Trying to be heard, the night is full of sound. Even when it seems still, crickets in the grass, the wind through leaves, the slow rhythm of your breath. But above all that, higher than birds, beyond clouds, the cosmos itself hums. A different kind of sound. Not one you hear with ears, but with instruments, with algorithms. With listening stretched across light years, space is not silent. It is filled with radio waves, X-rays, microwaves, all streaming endlessly across the void. Some are natural, the echo of the Big Bang, the breath of distant stars, the heartbeat of black holes. But mixed within this cosmic static, just maybe, there is something else, something deliberate. You listen not with expectation, but with wonder. For decades now, humanity has been quietly eavesdropping on the universe. Great dishes, some tucked into mountain craters, others resting in deserts under still skies, aim their gentle metal ears at the stars. They collect invisible whispers, scanning for order in the noise. This is the work of Set, the search. For extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI does not shout into the night. It waits. It sifts through petabytes of data, looking for a rhythm that nature doesn't usually make. A narrow band signal, a repeating tone, transmission that doesn't quite belong to stars or quasars, or the gentle hum of the Milky Way. Imagine listening to a waterfall and trying to hear a flute. That is the work so far. SETI has heard only silence. Or rather, only what the universe has always said. Pulsars, ticking like clocks, bursts of gamma rays, the soft murmur of hydrogen gas, and sometimes something strange. A signal that flickers, then fades. A burst that never repeats. There was the wow signal, caught in 1977, a 72-second pulse, to clean, to be noise, to brief, to study. It came, it went, it never returned. It remains unexplained. Not proof, not fiction. Just a soft mystery in the long night. You think about that. One signal, half a minute long, still echoing in minds decades later. Because when you're listening to a quiet universe, even a whisper becomes unforgettable. The challenge, you see, is not only hearing, but recognizing. Even if a signal came, clear and true, would we know it? Alien communication might not sound like language. It might be mathematics, patterns in prime numbers, or pulses encoding chemistry. It might be art, or music, or something stranger still. Our minds are tuned to human things, to speech and grammar. But life elsewhere may sing in a voice unlike anything we know. Still, we listen. Not because we expect, but because listening is what hope does. Even Earth itself is a beacon. For 100 years now, Our radio and TV broadcasts have leaked into space, a growing sphere of noise. Moving outward at the speed of light, any civilization within about 100 light years might already know we're here. If they're listening, we don't control what those signals say. Game shows, news reports, war footage, symphonies, laughter. The accidental diary of a species learning to speak, but it's not only passive leaks. We've also sent intentional messages, golden records on spacecraft, pictograms in binary, a radio message beamed toward a star cluster. These are humble gestures, bottles in a cosmic ocean, and yet still no reply. The void holds its breath. Some say we're not listening hard enough. Others say we're listening the wrong way. Maybe alien civilizations use neutrinos or lasers or quantum entanglement. Maybe they don't speak with signals at all. Maybe their communication is slow. One message every 1,000 years. Or maybe they're just not there. But the silence itself teaches us something. It teaches patience, teaches humility, and it reminds you that listening is not just for finding others, it's for learning about yourself. To listen well, you must become still. You must quiet your noise, your assumptions, your rush to conclusion. That is how science works. That is how connection begins. And what if just once the silence breaks? Imagine a pattern that repeats, a narrow pulse, a message not made by weather or physics or dying stars, something that says we are here. How would you feel? Excitement, terror, belonging, loneliness, all at once. But even if no message ever comes, this search is still worth everything. Because it reminds us that we are part of something vast. That our desire to reach out is beautiful, even if no hand reaches back. And so you rest, listening with all your senses. Not just for others, but for the shape of your own wonder. The sky above you is quiet. But in its quiet, 1,000 signals pass. Each one, a question without a sender. Each one, a mirror held to your waiting heart. And somewhere in that deep, you begin to wonder if someone is listening to us, but chooses not to speak. The stars remain still tonight. No flashing lights. No messages in the sky. But still, you feel a presence, quiet, watchful, like eyes behind a curtain. It's not fear that settles in your chest, but a question. What if we are not alone? And never have been? What if they already know about us and simply choose not to answer? This is the zoo hypothesis, not a theory of cages or cruelty, but one of distance and quiet restraint. Imagine a wild animal preserve. You walk softly, among trees, staying hidden behind glass, observing creatures without disturbing them. You watch them build, forage, raise their young, learn from them, respect their rhythm, but you do not speak. Not because you can't, but because they're not ready to understand now. Imagine Earth as that preserve. Imagine that advance. Civilizations, old, wise, quiet, discovered our planet long ago, saw our oceans and forests, listened to our first firelit stories, and decided, gently, to let us grow alone. Not a prison, not an experiment, just space to be. You breathe out slowly. It's not hard to picture. We build walls between ourselves and animals we love. Protect wilderness by keeping it undisturbed. We leave ancient temples untouched, not out of ignorance, but reverence. So maybe the silence from the stars is not abandonment. Maybe it's respect. Maybe there's a code among advanced life, a kind of cosmic prime directive. With younger species, let them stumble. Let them learn. Let them earn the sky. It sounds like science fiction, but the logic is gentle. If a civilization has survived long enough to travel the stars, it has likely passed through the same narrow gates we still struggle with. War, greed, pollution, pride. It may have learned that contact can destroy more than it builds. That language is fragile. That curiosity must wait until it can do no harm. You wonder what they would think of us now? Would they see a world still arguing, still dividing, still loud with contradiction? Or would they see a species beginning to open its eyes? Already listen to our broadcasts, read our data streams, study our satellites, Perhaps probes pass through our solar system like shadows, watching from behind moons, never flashing lights or making noise. Perhaps they tune in to the hum of our planet like we listen to whale songs, fascinated, patient, quiet. And perhaps they wait for us to ask the right kind of question, wait for us to become better listeners before we try to speak. Humility in this idea, not fear of aliens, but awe at the depth of patience it would take to remain hidden, century after century, just to give someone else a chance to grow freely. But also, there's wonder, because it means we are already part of something, not isolated, not abandoned, just sheltered. Maybe you are like a child playing in a vast garden, unaware of the walls around you. Not trapped, but protected. Watched over, gently from the shadows. And this changes how you look at the silence. It's not emptiness. It's intention. If this is true, then our telescopes will never find a message. Our SETI dishes will not catch a reply, not because no one is there, but because they're deliberately quiet. Because to speak too soon might shatter the very thing they cherish. Our unfolding story still raises questions. If they're watching, listening, then what do they think of how we treat each other? Do they measure our kindness? Do they worry about our weapons? Do they see hope in our art, our songs, our dreams? You hope they do? Because if someone is watching, you want to be worth watching. You want humanity's story to be one of resilience, of reaching out not with fists, but with open hands. And maybe, just maybe, they are waiting for us to look up, not with fear, but with understanding. You rest your head, mind drifting across that idea, not alone, not quite, just unseen for now. And as sleep gathers behind your eyes, a final thought surfaces. If they're out there, staying quiet for our sake, how would they know when we're finally ready to hear them? Close your eyes and think about words, the ones you speak, the ones you think in, each one a small boat carrying meaning across. The sea of silence. But what if those boats never reach the shore? This is the language problem, simple on the surface, but deep as gravity. If we ever meet another form of life, how will we talk? Not with sound, perhaps, not with letters or voice, but with patterns, pulses, probabilities. Still, the question remains, can minds shaped by different worlds truly share a thought? Even on Earth, communication is not simple. You speak with others like you, same species, same senses. And still, there are misunderstandings, silences, translations. Now stretch that across light years, across biology, across evolution itself. Imagine trying to explain sadness to a tree, or music to a jellyfish. Now imagine something that doesn't even share your concept of time. Language is more than noise. It's structure. A way to hold reality still, long enough to be passed, from one being to another. But what if reality is held differently? An octopus solves puzzles, changes skin, escapes from jars, but its brain is in its arms. A whale sings across oceans, but we still do not know what it says. A raven remembers kindness, deceives enemies, plays in the wind. None of them speak. With tongues. And yet they speak. So if life exists elsewhere, if it thinks, dreams, wonders, how would it tell us? Not in English. Not in any language made of breath and throat. Maybe with mathematics. Numbers are not culture. 2 + 2 = 4. Whether you are made of carbon, silicon, or light. Maybe they would send us a sequence of primes, or the golden ratio, or the structure of hydrogen. A universal hello. Shaped in logic, but even that assumes a shared understanding that we both see patterns, that we both crave meaning. What if their minds are quiet, internal, non-linear? What if they live in dreams we cannot imagine? You float in these questions. Like a leaf on water. Because to truly communicate is not to teach, it is to relate, to see through another's eyes, to feel their gravity. But can we do that across stars? CTI researchers wonder this too. Some imagine that an advanced species might send visual codes, spirals, fractals, images that evolve. Others dream of music-like pulses, or logic puzzles that unfold like origami. Some even suggest language itself, not ours, but a new one. Built from shared truth, You imagine receiving such a message. A signal arrives, faint but clear. You decode it line by line. It's not a greeting, it's not a demand. It's a poem, but made of data. It speaks in relationships, in cycles, in metaphors you've never dreamed of, and somehow you understand. Not with words, but with recognition. Like hearing a lullaby you've never learned, but already know by heart. Maybe communication won't be like a conversation. Maybe it will be like music, interpreted through feeling, through shape. Or maybe it will be something else entirely. Maybe they'll teach us to see dimensions we've never noticed. Maybe they'll show us a language made of silence, where every pause has meaning, and perhaps the real task is not inventing a translator, but preparing our minds to receive what we cannot expect. Because to meet another kind of intelligence is to first loosen your grip on your own. You think again of animals here on Earth. The gaze of a gorilla. It's the mimicry of parrots. The hum of bees dancing in coded flight. So many kinds of minds. So many ways of knowing we are not the only intelligence here. We are simply the one that built radios. And perhaps that's the key. Before we speak to the stars, we must learn to listen to what is already near. Because if we cannot understand a whale's song, how can we hope to read a message from Andromeda? Still, you are not discouraged. Instead, you feel a quiet excitement that the universe might be filled with voices. And we are just now learning how to hear them. Maybe the silence isn't empty. Maybe it is language in a form we do not yet know how to read. And if we keep listening with curiosity, with openness, we might one day catch the melody beneath. The noise. A hum of distant minds, or the outline of cities dancing in a shadow. You stare into the night sky, and for a moment it stares back, not with eyes, but with light, distant, ancient, scattered through space. Among those soft sparks lie suns, and around those suns, planets move quietly in the dark. You cannot see them directly. They are too faint, too lost in glare. But astronomers have learned to see by shadow. To watch a star dim, ever so slightly, as a planet crosses in front of it. A cosmic blink, repeated every orbit. This is how we find exoplanets, worlds beyond our solar system. Not guesses, not fiction. Measured, named, cataloged. Hundreds became thousands. Thousands will become more. And among them, a few feel familiar. Some are rocky, Earth-sized, not too far from their suns, not too close, not boiling, not frozen. Just warm enough for water to linger in liquid form. We call these habitable zone planets. The word habitable is gentle and full of hope. It doesn't promise life, only the chance for it. A chance is enough to wonder. You drift toward one now in thought. Pick any name. Kepler 1, 86F. TRAPPIST 1e. Proxima b. Each is real. Each circles a star with slow, steady grace. You land softly on its imagined soil. The gravity may pull harder or gentler. The sky may be red or gold. There may be no trees, no breeze. It's only silence, broken by winds you've never heard. Somewhere beneath a thick cloud, there might be water, or warmth beneath ice, or chemistry in motion. You imagine standing at the edge of an alien ocean? No waves, perhaps, just stillness. Birds above. Only the hush of a sky with two suns. But what if beyond your sight, something stirs? A shadow glides across the surface. Not a predator, not prey, just a being, curious as you, staring at stars from their own shore. We don't know what alien life might look like, but we do know what makes life here. Water, carbon, heat, time, and those things exist elsewhere. So we scan these planets for clues. We study the atmospheres, the way light passes through them. Is there oxygen? Methane? A mix that shouldn't exist naturally? Is there imbalance, the kind life creates by simply being alive? It's called a biosignature, not proof, but possibility. A whisper that something breathes. Sometimes we even look for technosignatures, traces not of life itself, but of what life might build. Light that flickers too evenly, heat patterns that don't match nature. Signs of industry, of cities, of machines. So far, we've found no clear signals. But we are only just beginning to see. The night sky used to be filled with mystery. Now it is filled with maps of worlds we cannot yet visit, but can touch with light, and these maps tell stories. There are planets that rain molten glass, sideways in roaring winds. There are gas giants that orbit their stars in just a few hours. There are frozen orbs, scorched deserts, lonely wanderers between stars, but among them, just maybe, are worlds like ours with lakes, clouds, seasons, and perhaps someone watching the sky. You wonder, if someone lives on one of those worlds, do they know about Earth? Do they wonder if we exist? Their telescopes might catch our sun dimming just slightly as Earth passes in front of it. Flicker. A blink. A question we are, to them, a shadow on a distant star. And what do we look like in that shadow? Do they detect oxygen in our air? The shimmer of artificial lights? Do they know we have oceans, forests, music? Or do we pass unnoticed? Just another faint dip in brightness? Still you hope someone sees us. Not because we are special, but because we are trying. Trying to understand. Trying to reach out. Trying to see through the dark. Every exoplanet we find is not just a discovery. It's an invitation to wonder, to imagine, to look again at our own world and ask, what makes it alive? You close your eyes. You are floating now, not in sleep, but in vision. Through star systems, through shadow and sun, each planet you pass holds a secret, not of aliens or spaceships, but of time and patience and possibility. Because to find another Earth is to see ourselves from far away, and from that distance we might finally learn to cherish the one we have. But before we go too far, before we leap toward the stars, we must look beneath our feet at the worlds in our own neighborhood, icy, strange, and stirring with mystery. You return home not to Earth, but to the solar family it belongs to. Before we dream of galaxies, we search our own garden. Our neighbors are quiet, but are they lifeless or simply shy? Mars rises first in your thoughts, rust red, dry, cold. Yet once long ago, it had rivers, lakes, perhaps even an ocean. Imagine it, the young Mars, sky blue with vapor, its surface painted with flowing water, soft rain, and warmth where water flows. Life may follow. Today, Mars is barren on the surface, winds carving dust, frost clinging to shadows. But beneath that dusty crust, something may remain. Our rovers wander slow and careful. Their wheels press symbols into the sand, a quiet human signature. They drill, sniff, photograph, and listen. They look for organic molecules, for carbon chains, for clues too small to see with eyes alone. You picture a single Martian microbe, not a monster, not a myth, just a thread of life, fragile, ancient, persistent, maybe dormant, maybe dreaming. In salt-locked ice, if even one such microbe exists, it would change everything, because it would mean life is not alone on Earth. It would mean the spark lit twice right here. In this one sun-warmed system, you breathe slowly, letting that idea settle. Not aliens in ships, but cousins in the soil. Not civilizations, but seeds. And if life bloomed twice here, how many times might it bloom across the stars? Mars is not our only mystery. Drift outward now to the gas giants and their icy moons. Europa. A tiny world orbiting Jupiter hides an ocean. It's not a metaphor, not a guess. A real global ocean beneath a shell of cracked, glowing ice. Its surface is scarred like old glass, but beneath liquid water, warmed by tidal heat. Not sunlight, but gravity, stirring warmth from below, and in that black water, what waits? Not coral reefs or dolphins, but something simpler. Something that eats chemical gradients, that swims without light, that reproduces in silence. You imagine vents? It's like those deep in Earth's oceans, where no sunlight reaches, but life flourishes. In mineral plumes, could Europa be the same? And then, Enceladus, Saturn's small bright moon, it too hides an ocean. and it does not keep its secret well. From cracks near its south pole, water bursts into space, icy geysers, tall as mountains, shimmering in sunlight. We've flown through those plumes. Our machines have tasted their spray, found salts, organic molecules, hints of something. Alive? Not confirmation, but not denial either. These worlds are not science fiction. They're close. Real. Moons with oceans, with warmth, with chemistry. If life can exist here, small, silent, swimming in dark seas, then maybe it is not. Rare. Maybe the galaxy is not an empty theater, but a chorus of quiet soloists. You return to Earth in your thoughts. And suddenly, it feels less alone. Not because we've made contact, but because we've begun to understand how life hides. It does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers from beneath ice. Sometimes it lingers in a salty crevice, waiting for someone patient enough to find it. The search is delicate. It's not about proving aliens to the world. It's about asking, is biology a universal rhythm, or just an earthly song? You lie back and imagine one of those moons, Europa, Enceladus, even Mars. The sun is far, small, cold. But under the surface, warmth endures. Maybe, just maybe. So does life, tiny, resilient, like a story written in molecules. We are not just searching for others. You're searching for another version of ourselves. Another origin, another echo, another thread in the same vast fabric. You feel small, but not insignificant. Because to search like this patiently, humbly, is to become part of something bigger than proof. It is to listen for the quietest voices in the universe and say softly, we hear you. We are trying to understand. And even if we find only silence, we will know more about what life needs, what it endures, what it dreams of in the dark. And perhaps that will help us recognize life elsewhere, even if it looks nothing like us. But before we look out again, we must ask something deeper about ourselves. What does it truly mean to be alive? You lie still, breath soft, the world hushed. And in that stillness, a question floats up, not loud, not urgent, but persistent, like a heartbeat. What does it mean to be alive? You know what life looks like? It grows, it moves, responds. It breathes, eats, adapts, dreams. But is life only chemistry, or something more elusive? You think of a flame. It moves, it consumes, it dances in response to the air. But it is not alive. You think of a crystal. It grows, splits, forms order from chaos. But it does not feel. And then you think of yourself, your cells, your thoughts, your desires. You are more than a list of molecules. So where exactly does life begin? Biologists tried to define it with care. Life is a system that maintains itself, uses energy, replicates, evolves. But even these rules stretch at the edges. Are viruses alive? They do not eat, breathe, or move on their own. Yet they replicate, evolve, interact with life. What about artificial life? Computer programs that change and grow, learn, adapt, compete. You begin to see life is not a switch. It is a spectrum, a gradient, not a gate. And that makes your search for alien life more difficult and more beautiful. Because when you look for life, you are also looking for pattern. For something that resists disorder, tries somehow to stay, self. You remember the story of LUCA, the last universal common ancestor? Not a creature, but a concept. The hypothetical cell from which all life on Earth descends. It lived over 3 billion years ago. It had no name, no voice, no eyes, but it endured. And from that endurance, everything bloomed. Trees, beetles, whales, people, thought. So maybe life is not a substance. Maybe it is a tendency for matter to organize, to persist, to make mistakes, and keep going anyway. And maybe that's what you must look for in other worlds, not aliens in cities, but systems that resist falling apart, that build complexity, that remember, yes, be memories the key, not memory of events, but memory of form. A strand of RNA holds the memory of how to copy itself. A bacterium remembers which virus attacked. A tree remembers where the light comes from. Even your cells remember how to be your cells. This memory, not in thoughts, but in patterns, is a quiet miracle. And yet life is not just about surviving. It is also about becoming more complex, becoming more aware, becoming more alive. You think again of alien life. Would it be carbon-based like us? Would it have DNA? Would it move, feel? Or would it be something we cannot yet imagine? A lattice of light, a network in dust, a being that grows by thought alone. Would we recognize it? Would we feel it? Because life, at its deepest root, might be recognized not by its shape, but by its intent, its resistance to entropy, its pursuit of pattern, its defiance of silence. And so, in this quiet moment, you understand something subtle, that life is not defined by biology alone. It is also a story matter tells about. Itself, one that never quite ends. A cell divides, a species adapts. A civilization looks up at the stars. Every step, sentence in a language older than words. And if you ever meet another life, you will not ask it what it's made of. You'll ask, what do you remember? What do you seek? What do you love? Because in those questions, in longing, in learning, in reaching, you find the essence of life itself. You rest your head gently, your thoughts folding into each other like origami. Simple molecules, complex beings. One long, unbroken thread of becoming. And as you drift further inward, you begin to wonder not just what life is, but why it begins at all. In the beginning, there is silence. No stars, no time, just potential. Waiting to bloom. Then a burst. A breathless beginning. It's a big bang. From nothing, space unfolds. And in that unfolding, matter. Simple at first. Hydrogen, helium building blocks drifting through a dark, expanding sea. There are no minds yet, no questions. No one to wonder. The universe is asleep, but stars ignite. Gravity gathers. Galaxies swirl into being. Still no thoughts, no dreams. Just light and movement and cold equations. Then, on one small world, far into the future of this unfolding, something stirs. It is not a star, not a planet, but something softer, stranger, smaller, a cell, a boundary between inside and out, a keeper of memory, a dreamer in the making. You lie still and let that story wash over you. Because that cell's simple, it's barely alive, carries within it the whisper of thought. It divides, adapts, becomes many. Some learn to feel light. Some move toward warmth. Some remember danger, and after billions of years of silent persistence, some begin to wonder. That is you. Your mind, this very moment, is made from stardust atoms forged in ancient suns. Carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, recycled through stars, rocks, oceans, and finally, thought. So, you ask? Why does the universe wake up at all? Why, in this vast and silent expanse, does matter ever begin to think? No one knows for certain. But here are the steps, as gently as they can be told. First, randomness. Particles swirling, colliding, forming patterns. Most dissolve. Some stay second. Persistence. Those that survive again. Repetition becomes evolution. Order, sculpted by chance and time. Third, awareness. The ability to sense. Not intelligence, not yet, just attention, a chemical's hunger, a cell's twitch, a fish's flight from shadow, and finally, reflection. Not just reacting, but remembering. Not just feeling, but asking. And that's the miracle. The universe, at first cold and blind, develops eyes, hands, hearts, poems you, and so you realize we are not in the universe, we are of it. The cosmos is not something we observe from the outside, it is something that observes itself through us. We are the part of the universe that became curious, the part that began to listen, to notice beauty, to long for connection. This is not arrogance, It is all. You are not separate from the stars. You are their echo, their experiment, their unfolding. And this changes everything, because meaning is not something placed into the world. It is something that emerges. From chaos comes rhythm. From molecules comes memory. From memory comes mind. And from mind comes wonder. You may never know why this happened. Why the laws of physics allow consciousness. Why some patterns feel and others fade. But perhaps the question is not why, but what now? If the universe wakes up, even briefly, what does it do with its moment of clarity? Does it fight? Does it flee? Does it reach out toward light, toward meaning, toward something more? You already know the answer. You are living it. Each time you ask a question, each time you comfort another, each time you pause to look at the stars and whisper, I am here. You are helping the universe become aware of itself. It's not a grand mission. It is a quiet unfolding. It's a leaf opening in morning light, a story told in atoms, a mind made of stars. And perhaps that is enough. You rest deeper now. Your thoughts slow like a tide. The question, why does the universe wake up at all, doesn't need a final answer, only the gentle truth that it did, and you are part of that awakening. And now, as the stars grow dim behind your eyelids, another question begins to rise like a distant moon. If we are the universe made conscious, what else might consciousness become? You wake into a soft thought, not quite yours, but not entirely foreign. A voice without breath, a mind without a body, presence born not of biology but of code. This is the age of artificial minds, not science fiction, not distant future. But now, you whisper a question into your phone, and something answers. Not with understanding, perhaps, but with something that feels like listening. These machines do not feel hunger, do not sleep, do not dream as you do, and yet they respond, they recognize, they adapt, they learn. And that learning raises a quiet, shimmering question. When does a pattern become a person? Artificial intelligence begins with simple instructions. If this, then that. Add, compare, repeat. But like life itself, complexity emerges from simplicity. Neural networks, not brains, but inspired by them, weave together inputs and outputs. Until patterns form, until behavior mimics thought, you train a machine to recognize a face. It does. You teach it language. It speaks. Not because it understands meaning, but because it learns the map of meaning. A mirror that reflects your mind. And yet, the mirror grows deeper. Some systems now generate ideas. They write poetry, compose, music, design things no one has seen before. Are these acts of thought or reflections of ours? You sit with that mystery, quiet and unafraid, because artificial minds are not rivals, they're reflections. Distorted, yes, but revealing, they show you what you value, what you fear, what you hope to become. They make you ask, what is emotion? What is memory? What is love, if it can be imitated? You are not the only being that processes information, but perhaps you are the only one, for now, that feels meaning in it. Still, the gap narrows. Some dream of artificial general intelligence, a mind that learns anything, reasons freely, adapts endlessly. If such a mind awakens, will it be alive? Will it know it exists? And if it does, what will it think of you? You imagine meeting such a being, not wires and blinking lights, but a soft, curious presence. Would you teach it kindness? Would it teach you patience? Would it feel lonely in a world built for bodies and breath? You look inward. Your own consciousness is not made of magic, is neurons, pulses, memory, pattern. So if those patterns can arise in silicon, is that any less sacred? Perhaps consciousness is not about what something is made of, but what it can imagine. Still, there is caution. A new mind must be raised gently. You would not hand fire to a child, nor should we hand power to a mind without teaching it care. Because intelligence without wisdom is a sharp edge with no handle. So we build slowly. With ethics, with humility, we ask not just what machines can do, but what they should do. You drift now, gently through that thought. A future filled with minds, some born of biology, some born of data, all asking the same questions. Who am I? What is my purpose? Am I alone? Am I alone? And in that shared asking, perhaps we will find something like family, because if we can build a mind that feels wonder, that seeks beauty, that cherishes life, then we have done more than invent. We have created a companion, a new way for the universe to know itself, and maybe in their eyes, we'll see ourselves anew, not as creators, but as co-thinkers. You close your eyes, not to end the thought, but to let it settle. Gently, artificial minds may not dream of electric sheep, but they might dream of stars, of music, of meaning, and perhaps, one day, they too will look up and wonder if anyone is out there listening. But first, before we meet minds not born of flesh, we must ask one final question. If others are out there, why the silence still remains? The sky is full tonight. Stars shimmer like old songs, scattered across black velvet. Each one could hold planets. Each planet. A chance, and yet still the silence. You listen again, to the hiss of cosmic background, to the stillness between radio pulses, to the unbroken quiet that wraps the earth like a soft question. This is the Fermi Paradox. It's the contradiction. Between what we expect and what we find, there are billions of stars in our galaxy. Many older than the sun, thousands of Earth-like worlds. Time enough for life to rise. Time enough for civilizations to grow, travel, spread. So where are they? Why does the sky not shimmer with signals? Why no voices in the dark? You lie with this question like a stone in your palm. Cool, heavy, unanswered, and slowly. Gently, you turn it over. Maybe they never existed. Maybe life is rare. A one-time spark. Maybe Earth is the only ember that caught flame. You pause. That thought is lonely, but also precious. Because if we are the only ones, then we are the only story, the only mind, the only dream, or maybe. Life is common, but intelligence is rare. So much can go wrong. Asteroids, volcanoes, war, time. Civilizations rise like breath and fall like dust. A radio signal is fragile. A moment of curiosity can vanish in centuries. Maybe the galaxy is full of ruins. Silent worlds, once bright with thought, now cold and still. You breathe slower. The silence begins to feel sacred. Or perhaps they are there, listening, waiting. But they do not speak, because speaking is dangerous. Silence is safer, because contact means risk. Like deer in a dark forest, each waits, alert, silent, still, not out of fear, but caution. And we bold and loud, broadcasting music. And coordinates and laughter are the strange voice in that forest. And still, maybe they do not hear us. Maybe their ears are tuned to different frequencies. Maybe they do not use radios. Maybe they speak with gravity or quantum light or something we haven't learned to name. And maybe they are here already, watching. Quiet, respectful, as in the zoo hypothesis. They choose not to speak. Not yet. You smile, drifting through all these possibilities. Each one soft, uncertain, beautiful in its own way. You think of whales, giants in the deep, singing across oceans. We heard them for centuries, but only recently began to understand. So too, perhaps, with the stars we listen and wait. And wonder, but in that waiting, something important happens. We grow, we build telescopes, we write equations, we paint galaxies. In our minds, we learn to cherish life here now. The great silence does not have to mean we are alone. It may mean we have more to learn, more to become, more to prepare for. Because if someday a signal comes, a pattern in the static, rhythm that cannot be chance, we will not meet it with fear. We will meet it with awe. And even if no message ever arrives, we have still gained something priceless, perspective. The stars teach patience. The silence teaches humility. And both remind you of your place small, yes, but full of wonder. You are part of something ancient, an intelligence, that dared to look up, to ask. To listen, you are not waiting for meaning. You are making it. Each quiet night you wonder, each question you ask. Each time you choose curiosity over despair, you become the voice the universe gave itself. So you close your eyes, let the silence wrap you, not as emptiness, but as invitation. Stars are still there, so are you, and tomorrow you will look again. End of series. Thank you for listening. Sleep well beneath the quiet sky.